Sit down. Gosh.
Oh my gosh. Cringe.
Here's... Before this starts, just a little cold opening. Here's a little headline. The top story today in terms of Ready Player One. Ready Player One themed Roblox event becomes a big mess.
A Roblox event.
You're welcome for that one. Alright. What's up? And welcome. That was horrible. Stupid camera sucks.
Why did you buy it then?
I'm kidding. It's a good camera. Stupid freaking green light garbage. What's up, and welcome to another episode of Infinite Productions. I'm here again with my brother James, and we are... Did you? No, you didn't. No, he didn't.
I didn't.
No, he didn't.
It looked like a dab on the camera.
Okay, that was. Alright, we're here. We're here with another review. We are going to be reviewing Ready Player One. I know a lot of you will be just jumping out of your seats for joy for that one.
What's that supposed to mean?
Because people are excited about Ready Player One.
I thought you were being sarcastic.
Maybe. Maybe those of you who have seen it aren't quite jumping out of your seats, or maybe you are, depending on the type of person you are. We do 3 sections of reviewing, and then at the end we just give little whatevers in terms of our final looks at the movie. Our 3 sections are writing, acting, and production values, and so that's what we'll be looking at. We each do our little...
Boy.
Acting's going to be a fun one. We are going to each look at those sections individually, as we always do. Don't get your pants in a knot yet, okay?
Okay, this is going to be a more negatively based review for both of us, I think.
Yes. So just...
This will be our first negative review. Don't dislike bomb, please.
It's not a personal attack on you, okay?
I don't think many of you care that much, though.
You just stopped listening right now, and you're going to skip to whatever minute we start reviewing. I can't really say I generally like a lot of the writing in this movie. Mm-hmm. I thought about it more and more. The good thing is with these reviews, we get a lot of time in between to think about it. And I got a lot of time to think about it. And just stop right there. In my time of thinking, I really started to dislike it more and more. Mm-hmm. Dislike the movie more and more, honestly. I don't think there's really anything particularly positive I can say about the writing. Other than that, I think Ben Mendelsohn's writing was really good. But again, he was an absolutely ridiculous character. We'll go into characters later, but I at least thought his writing was like halfway decent. I don't know what your thoughts on his writing was. I like Simon Pegg's character. His writing rather. He usually does stuff with he does good stuff with what he's given. But overall, I felt that the writing was incredibly on the nose, and most of it was either really cliche, just typical lines and interactions, or it was just on the nose plot revealing by narration, which is, for one, an incredibly cliche thing to do, and for two, if you're a screenwriter, and I'm not like a professional or anything, but I know a lot of the rules of writing, and if you do a lot of narration, it becomes very, very, very on the nose really quickly, and you don't really get a chance to immerse yourself in the world because you've got someone telling you what the heck the world is about. Mm-hmm. So that just... narration, more and more the thought of narration kind of infuriates me. When it's used right, it's good. But I think Ready Player One used it wrong, unfortunately, most of the time. And I just didn't think there was anything all too special about the writing. So yeah, that there were really only Ben Mendelsohn and Simon Pegg were the only ones I thought their writing was anywhere good. I do have to say, though, the fight scenes, however they were written, were really well written. So that's that.
Yeah. I mean, the writing really isn't anything that special. There's not anything offensive, I guess, but there's not really anything that stands out either, which is a little surprising coming from Steven Spielberg. Because, yes, if you didn't know, but I'm sure you did because this movie has been promoted pretty heavily, Steven Spielberg was the director. I'm sure he had some sort of hand in writing the script, but really, I don't know how much of the fault is with him, because one of the script writers were different. One of the script writers was actually the author of the book, Ernest Cline, I believe, which makes me not want to read the book if this is how he writes.
Yeah.
I've actually heard from some people that the book is not that good, so...
Yeah, Spielberg isn't given any credit in writing, so
Okay.
I don't think he did anything.
Well, I can't fault him for that, because I will say that this doesn't really apply to writing, but Spielberg does some pretty solid directing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he's a great director overall, I think.
I mean, this isn't among his best work or anything.
No.
He's known for things like, I mean, you all obviously know what he's known for, but like E.T., Jurassic Park, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. My personal favorite by him is Close Encounters. Jaws, which I'm personally not fond of. I know a lot of...
Roast him now.
Yeah, please roast me. I've just never been a big fan of Jaws.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is... There's no competition, in my opinion, with Jurassic Park. For his
I really liked Close Encounters for whatever reason.
I liked that one too. Yeah. We saw that one in big theaters, which was an incredible experience.
But
that's a side note.
I mean, nonetheless, you gotta respect his talent. But we're talking about the writing right
For
now.
those of you calling it his finest, you're wrong. Sorry.
No, I hope no one's calling this his best movie.
That's what people are. That's what in like the little promotion trailer. You can skip past this if you want. In the little promotion trailers they put on like Facebook Watch and such, people are like USA Today called it his finest. Like, yeah, USA Today.
Right.
They called it his finest, and I'm like, you haven't seen Jurassic Park, clearly. So yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I mean, the plot is very thin. We're living in a dystopian world, which, oh my gosh, dystopian world has been so overdone at this point. I'm very tired of it. And this movie adds nothing new to the dystopian genre, in my opinion. And basically there's this virtual reality that characters can go to escape their world, which, I mean, there's been lots of movies that have done this subject, and lots of TV shows, and it's not innovative. I mean, it reminded me of what Black Mirror would be if it was horrible, in my opinion. Because, you know, people... There's an episode of Black Mirror, a virtual reality episode,
yeah, and
which is, like, miles better.
I was thinking you were comparing the atmosphere of it, like...
No, not the atmosphere, but, like...
Yeah, I see what you're saying with virtual reality.
It had a similar idea.
It's like if Playtest was bad.
Oh, man, yeah.
And if Playtest was bad, I would have ended my own life, because that is the best premise for any episode of anything ever.
But, anyway.
On a side note, we'll edit this out, but there's a really, really good dystopian show on Netflix. It's a Portuguese show called 3%. And it's incredible. Okay. It's one of the most unique dystopian... Yeah. It's the most unique dystopian show I've seen. Yeah. Anything dystopian, but yeah.
I don't necessarily hate dystopian, because, like, heck, you could consider Game of Thrones a dystopian world, because of how horrible it is, you know?
I guess.
I mean, the definition of dystopian is a world that is just a darker version of the world we're living in, or whatever. Anyway,
and you don't have to buy into the... You don't have to buy into the trope that dystopian is always in the future.
Yeah,
because that's such a typical thing.
Yeah.
And, like, the only things that have done it are 1984, and I don't even know, that's the only one that I can really think of that's done it really good.
Fahrenheit 451.
Fahrenheit 451 also, yeah. But yeah, it can be in the past, like, or it can be in the present too. It doesn't have to be in the future.
Right.
It's such a trope, and yeah, I'm
okay, so we talked about that for a while.
That was 11 minutes already.
That was like a little point for me, but anyway, I like the expansion.
And it's in 2045.
Yeah,
close to the reign of Blade Runner.
Right.
And like,
let's not even talk about
bring
Blade
that
Runner. In. We should do a review of Blade Runner sometime to gush over it. But anyway,
unfortunately, its time has passed. But yes, I would. that would be something where you'd have to sit here for probably an hour listening to us ramble.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But once again, off on another tangent. Yeah, it's a dystopian movie, but it doesn't really do much to further that genre. And I mean, other writing problems. You don't really get to know any of the characters at all. I mean, the characters are reduced to one personality trait, really. The main character is about as thinly written of a main character as I've seen. There's nothing about him that stands out whatsoever. He's just like your typical protagonist that's wanting to rise above the government, the evil corporation or whatever.
And to be fair, even though Ben Mendelsohn is, like, in my opinion, decently written, he's not very threatening.
No, not at all.
His weapon of choice is... Is that a spoiler? That's a spoiler. No,
Yeah.
we're not going there. That's a spoiler. Yeah, that is a spoiler. 100%.
But, I mean, really what the government's motive... Okay, so he's wanting... The main character, whose avatar
He's
name
the
is
boy
Parzival.
version of Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah, whose avatar name is Parzival, and he's also named Wade in the real world. His main goal is to collect these keys. Like, there's these 3 keys that the game creator has hidden. What's the game creator's name again?
His name... I don't even remember his name.
He was the only, like, really,
I know that was Mark Rylance who played him.
He was the only, like, really good character in the show.
Yeah.
Shoot, what was his name?
It doesn't even show it on Rotten Tomatoes. Thanks a lot, Rotten
Halliday.
Tomatoes.
Halliday.
That's right.
Is his name. He was the creator of the virtual reality world, which is called OASIS, which, very cliche name for a reality world, in my opinion. Anyway, the main goal of the movie, of the main characters, is to collect these 3 keys. But the 3 keys are in the video game world. Why should we care? There's no stakes to collecting those keys. No stakes whatsoever. Besides the government wanting to take over the game, which, from what I understood of the movie, their only motivation is to take the game and add ads into it, which that doesn't sound very threatening to me.
Yeah. But on that note, they did make it clear that though I'm not giving any credit to the video game plot points. We'll get into this more. I guess we can include plot and writing because this is all of these problems are going to be the bulk of our review, is because it's been 15 minutes already and this is all we're stuck on. This in my opinion, a lot of this stuff is the big problem. But I mean, we'll probably spend the most time on this, so just bear with us and we'll get through it. But on that note, I thought at least the movie made it clear that this game is relating to real world currency.
Yeah.
And but also it's incredibly low and incredibly flat for these characters to just want to be rich.
Right.
So that's just another thing. But I'm just saying for the purposes of plot that's probably the reason they were giving so much weight to it.
Yeah, which, I mean...
But then again, it's incredibly selfish to want... Because he wanted to take... Okay, so his character goes through a change so freaking what? In the beginning, he wants to own the game, and at the end, he's given some sort of grand revelation about his personal life and how he's a terrible person and how he shouldn't want to own the video game. Cliche plot point, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter, because his character still owns it and he still feels that sense of power. So, the keys are just they're just there.
Yeah.
And it's they're just a plot point for the purpose of having a plot point.
They're literally a way just to move the plot
It's
along.
like trying to be Monty Python in the Holy Grail with horribleness. So,
yeah.
And Monty Python in the Holy Grail is a better movie than Ready Player One. I think.
For sure. It's a great movie. But yeah, I just, even with them emphasizing on the conflict, I mean, I just didn't feel the stakes. I didn't really care that much because it wasn't that big of a deal in my opinion. And yeah, all the characters are pretty badly written. There's only a few, like Ben Mendelsohn and Olivia Cooke, who make up for their thinly written characters by doing some pretty good acting. But, I mean, the writing, there's absolutely nothing to write home about. It's just not interesting. The plot is pretty cliched. I think there might be a few plot holes in there, too. There are just a few points where I was like, what the heck? That doesn't make sense. And also, the main heart of this movie, I guess, is the relationship between Parsifal and Artemis, who's played by Olivia Cooke. But there were, on one hand, I can understand that why their relationship happened so quickly because it was in a video game. But it was way too quick, in my opinion, still.
It won't last, by the way.
And even Olivia Cooke's character pointed out in the film how quick it was. So it was like, oh, good job, writers. You're pointing out your own flaw in your writing. Why didn't you fix that? That was my biggest problem, was that their relationship, I just didn't care for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess from there we can kind of transition into character and acting. I'm pretty sure both of our favorite parts was Mark Rylance, who played Halliday, the game's creator. I found his character, and I found Mark Rylance's interpretation of that character to be very interesting and unique, and I wanted to know more about his character.
Yeah.
But all they gave us was this flat, like, he created a game, he wanted people to carry on the inheritance of his game, and carry this world of the OASIS into the eternity, or whatever. And, like, Simon Pegg's character was like, okay, there's a big plot twist with him, and that's great. But they don't even put him in that much, and he's like the second most important plot point. I don't think Ty Sheridan is any type of special at all. His performance was incredibly bland and flat. He gave basically next to no emotion to his character. And I felt the same with the rest of the characters. There was really nothing special about the characters, except that they play a video game in virtual reality. Olivia Cooke did pretty good, but her character confused me at times, because on one hand she's like, I don't want to be in a relationship, I want to save the real world, and I don't have time for whatever else. Mm-hmm. But then she just gets into a relationship like that, and it's like, which choice is your character going to make?
Yeah.
Like, her character, even though she's a good actress and she does great in Bates Motel, her character just confused me, and as did most of the characters. A lot of the characters is just their presence in the movie confused me. Like, what is the purpose of having them there? Like, it's just this typical, I don't care. It's the cringiest name they give to their freaking band at the end of the movie. It's called High Five.
Yeah.
It's so horrible. And it's like, it's 5 people, typical. It's all these people banded together out of one horrible event that brought them together and made them best friends. I'm sorry if I'm getting angry, but this is every movie plot ever. And people should be sick of it. But we'll go into why people aren't sick of it in production values or whatever. So yeah, that's all I have to say about character.
I think, since I already sort of talked about my problems with the characters, I think the acting was a bit of a mixed bag. Once again, sort of similar to the writing, there wasn't any acting that was particularly offensive to me. But there was also none that really stood out. I agree with Joseph about Mark Rylance being one of the better parts of the film. I think he did a good job at making his character unique, and I don't know, I wish he'd been the main character, honestly. There was a lot more story to him, and the best scene of the film happened at the end with a conversation between him and the main character. I thought that was the best scene, and it sort of gave the theme of the movie, and it's like, why didn't you have more scenes like that one? More heartfelt scenes like that one? In a way, I think it's sort of weird. I think this movie was attempting with its characters sort of what the Lego movie did. Like, putting all these nostalgic characters on screen.
Yeah, that's the movie that it's like. We were trying to think about what movie we could compare this to. That's actually a very good point.
Lego movie is very similar to this one in the fact that it uses nostalgia to gain emotion. But the difference between this one and the Lego movie is that in the Lego movie, the nostalgia was...
It is the world.
It is the world. And it's implemented well. And there's a good little twist to the movie that really just sort of hones in this heartwarming theme of, like, how nostalgia reaches across the ages and stuff like that. This movie does a similar idea, but it's devoid of the heart, in my opinion. It really is.
Yeah, the thing about... I guess we're going back and forth like crazy, but this is just like stream of consciousness for the most part in these reviews. But that's a very good point that you make about the Lego movie. And it's interesting because there is that difference I agree with. But also, the Lego movie, and it's almost the same with like the Lego Batman movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are great, phenomenal movies. The Lego movie, I would say, definitely compares a lot more to this one though. So the Lego movie it introduces the world, and the world is made of Legos. Fantastic. We who were born in the 90s were absolutely thrilled. But like the Lego, it doesn't even matter that it's Lego because it's like characters, and the characters are so incredibly fleshed out, and it's amazing how much they do in like the short time of like I think that movie's like an hour and 40 some odd minutes or something like that, maybe even less. It's just incredible what that does. And Ready Player One, I guess we're going into what I really think makes this movie kind of devoid of heart is that the more you really think about it, the more Spielberg kind of threw the nostalgia into your face, and kind of he used the nostalgia to kind of fuel some sort of like I don't know, some sort of audience appreciation for what the story was trying to say.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the nostalgia had nothing to do with the story.
Yeah.
They were two completely different things. Like the nostalgia was there, the story was debatably there, and I thought the nostalgia was just whereas bringing in like the Gundam and the Iron Giant and whatever else, you all know that. That's not a spoiler alert. That's in the ad.
Yeah. I guess since we've been a little negative lately, I'll go ahead and give some other performances that I appreciated. I liked Ben Mendelsohn as well. His character, as it was written, was a very cliched corporate CEO, government evil guy. Yep. Really, that's all he was. He was a stereotype. But Mendelsohn did enough good with his acting to make this character a bit more interesting than he deserved to be. He was a fun character, and I liked him every time he was on screen. He lifted the movie quite a bit. Olivia Cooke is good too, in my opinion. Her character is not that great, but I think she once again gives enough of a good performance that you like her enough. I mean, I liked her every time she was on screen. She was probably the best part of the movie, in my opinion. And I also liked T.J. Miller as IROC. The one sort of really good comedic relief in this film. That's all he really was a comedic relief dispensary, but he was good. I did like him. And for weak performances, I mean, the biggest culprit is Ty Sheridan as a main character. I mean, Lord, he did nothing. He did nothing, which wasn't entirely his fault because his character was nothing too.
And back to writing, this is something that I just learned about in my writing class, is that he's a passive protagonist, really. What he does, the little that he does is so irrelevant. Like, he tries to overthrow the government. Like you said, that's cliche. And other than that, I see him as an extremely passive protagonist who just, like, whatever, you can, yeah.
And this is sort of the problem with him, is that I think his character was almost made so that you could insert yourself into the story and it wouldn't be any different. Like,
yep,
I feel like that was the draw of his character, was that he was so bland that you could insert yourself into the character and it wouldn't be honestly any different. But I don't like characters who are written like that. I prefer characters who have actual personality.
In my opinion, that's for video games to do.
Yeah. Which
is ironic.
I guess, I mean, this movie tries to be a video game movie sometimes, like a very weak video game storyline, but, I mean, video games, there are so many video games that have better storylines than this one does, so it's not even fair to call this a video game movie, because that's an insult to good video games that have good storylines. Yeah. This is like a very weak, cheap, off-brand video game that you would see that tries to make up for it by shoving all sorts of nostalgia into your face.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can speak positively in that I had fun at the movie because of the video game sections.
Same here.
I had fun. It's unquestionably a fun movie. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy movies for what they are, which is entertainment. And this movie is clearly created to be entertainment. But as you know, there's like a line between entertainment and also having a good story. That's why the Lego movie was so entertaining, yet also an amazing movie. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Ready Player One did the entertainment side very well, it didn't do the story side very well. That we have made that blatantly obvious at this point. But
Spoiler alert, don't go...
Spoiler alert right here.
Past.
I'll put it in big red letters, and if you don't skip it, it's your problem. My favorite scene is where he's driving backwards through the under the field.
Yeah, that was
a very visually cool scene. And then he had that. I think that was a pretty cool interaction between him and Halliday's avatar that they had at that first time, because that was the one that felt like most real. It felt like really real that this Halliday's character made it feel really important that he got this first key.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I thought that scene was my favorite when I saw it, and it remained to me my favorite the more I thought about just how cool it is. And yeah, I overall was more interested in the video game world than in the real world. I think that's just what I think. I mean, the video game world wouldn't have had much of a story if they'd made it entirely in the video game world, but I just felt more invested in what was going on in the video game world.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as production went, I mean, this movie was very solidly produced.
Yes.
I think Spielberg knew his vision when it came to production. He knew what he wanted this movie to look like. And there are some legitimately eye-popping moments throughout. I mean, I think the CGI was great in this. I think there was hardly a moment where I was like, I don't believe that. Because the CGI was just very well done. And I don't know, it was cool to see all these characters that you've loved in classic movies coming onto the screen. I won't lie, I smiled when I saw several different characters appearing. It was subjectively just a lot of fun to see all these characters coming together, and I think it's an interesting idea that in this movie you would have to pause almost every frame to sort of identify what characters you see. The problem is that's the draw of the movie, is seeing all these characters that you know from other things, not the story, rather the seeing all these nostalgic characters.
Yeah.
Which, that can work in some ways, but if the nostalgic characters aren't contributing to the plot, then there's really no point for them to be there other than eye candy. Spoiler alert. Okay. So I really like the Shining scene, when the characters actually went into the movie, because I think they did a good job of sort of making the Shining world feel real, and it was actually somewhat legitimately scary while also satirizing the horror genre. And the scene furthered the plot, unlike a lot of the nostalgic elements here did. I thought it was a very fun scene, and it worked really well within the context of the movie. Yeah. I mean, and sort of, I guess, I don't know how much this relates to production, but I thought, like I mentioned earlier, that Spielberg had some assured direction. Like, he was guiding the movie very competently. He did the best with what he could with the script he had, I think. The best he could have possibly done, and I'll commend him for that. He really wasn't the problem of this movie necessarily, besides the fact that he just really wanted to hammer in all this nostalgia.
Yeah. Just the fact is that he's the director, and he would have seen that writing, and he could have directed the writing in a different sense. But
yeah.
I think it could have partially been maybe him wanting to bring that nostalgia big time. But yeah, it wasn't fully his problem. He's a good director. But I think the crowning CGI, even though I haven't seen the movie, it's on Netflix though, so I'm very interested to see it, is the Iron Giant. The CG of that character is just amazing. That's really the bottom line. And he actually contributed to a major part of the characters getting to where they need to go in a literal sense. If you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah. So that did you have anything else to say first?
No.
Okay, that basically ends our review of this movie. My final thoughts, I mean, you've heard my thoughts, but in a condensed version, I thought that the entertainment side of Ready Player One was very good, but it had, unfortunately, I'm just going to say it had more weaknesses than it did strengths. If you want to enjoy yourself, though, and if you are a person who enjoys movies and is not a critic, then you will enjoy the living crap out of yourself at this movie. But unfortunately, us as critics, we can't enjoy stuff. So be lucky that you're that type of person. And so I originally gave this movie a 3 out of 5. I don't think I can stand by that rating with what I've said and with what I've thought about. I think I have to really, I have to give it a really bad rating. I have to say a 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Because just the more I thought about it, there's just a lot of stuff that just brings you out of it. You know, like a movie is supposed to be suspension of disbelief. You're supposed to take yourself into a world. And the writing really was the big bane of, like, it forcibly took you into the world a lot of the times. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah. This movie, if you turn your brain off, is passable, in my opinion. Like, I watched it with Joseph and another friend, and I had fun watching it while I was watching it with them. I liked seeing the other friend in particular, who isn't as much of a critic as us. I loved his reactions to a lot of his favorite characters coming on screen. I was like, this is the type of person who needs to see this movie. Someone who would really enjoy all this nostalgia. And if you enjoy the movie for that reason, I honestly cannot fault you for it.
Yeah.
If you love the movie, I would understand why, based on what I saw. Some people don't care as much about writing when there's a whole bunch of fun action scenes, and I understand that from a certain viewpoint. But me personally, as someone who writes, I just can't forgive that. And I was even thinking about that while watching the movie, even though I was having a fun time watching the movie. I was still constantly thinking that the writing was just not good, and I just did not care for the main character. But as it stands, I guess I'm going to give this movie a 2.5 out of 5. And just say that though that rating might sound a little negative, I would still say go see this movie and just see what you think of it, because I think depending on the type of person you are, I think you can really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, you know the type of person you are. If you're the type of person, I think it's important for any person to see this movie, but if you're a person who enjoys going to movies, then you will unquestionably enjoy yourself. If you're a critic, I mean, I still say go see it, because I think it's important for us critics to develop our opinions and to kind of, because we got to look at this craft in more than one way, because it's not just about, movie making is not just about, like, bringing in an audience for one specific thing. It's about bringing in an audience for a total package, and that's really what reviewing is all about. And I think that's why it's important. If you're a critic, you should go see it too and formulate your opinion, and your opinion is incredibly important, and if you like it, your opinion is incredibly important too. So that's really it for this review. If you like this video, you can press the like button right down there. If you dislike it, we blasted this movie pretty badly. I'm sorry, but this is our opinion, and it's the way it is. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, you can press the like button right down there. Hit the subscribe button for more videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.